Hello here and welcome again to another edition of the HuskerOnline Show. Sean Callahan, Steve Sipple, Robin Washit with you here as we get you ready for Robin and I, at least one of our favorite trips in the Big Ten, heading out to Madison, Wisconsin. Does it rank up there for Steve Sipple? It's our first trip to Madison together.
I guess. I mean, I don't know. I wouldn't say it's. I don't know. I don't think about it that way. I like going to Ann Arbor. That's the main place I like going.
So we're heading out to Wisconsin.
Not the answer Sean was looking for.
Transitioning.
I like going to see America's team, Sean.
American Jim Harbaugh. We'll save the hardball talk for later in the show. But Nebraska, Wisconsin, 6:30 night game in Madison. It's officially Nebraska's latest season night game since joining the Big Ten Conference. Now, they did play in College Station, Texas in 2010 on November 20th or November 19th. So
is that right?
Not technically the latest night game in the regular season in Nebraska school history, but pretty close. And they'll be on NBC for the first time since joining the Big Ten. This game will be nationally televised on NBC with a big stage for these two teams that, quite frankly, haven't really lived up to the billing for, it's a 5-5 matchup on both sides. That's going to be seen in prime time across America. And it's a fascinating game because both teams are in year one with new head coaches. Both teams have had their ups and downs, but it feels like Wisconsin SIP is almost in a much worse place right now, just with their identity and the struggles that they've battled, losing back-to-back weeks to Indiana and Northwestern.
Oh, yeah. I mean, when you say Nebraska hasn't lived up to its billing, they still have a chance to. I mean, I think we all predicted 6, 7, and 5.
And Wisconsin was predicted to be a 9 or 10 win team.
So Nebraska 6-6. That's what I thought. I thought 6-6, and as I've said, like in a good day on this summer, you might be able to get me to 7-5 during the summertime. But so Nebraska's sort of on track in my mind. Mm-hmm. No, Wisconsin's not. I mean, this is a major disappointment, and it's, I think it's largely unexpected up there, right?
Yeah,
5-5, 3-4 in the Big Ten. Nebraska 5-5, 3-4 in the Big Ten. Rob.
Yeah, I never understood the Wisconsin hype. I mean, I know that the Fickle hire was a big deal nationally, but I mean, and they had Braden Allen back, but they were completely revamping a lot of things, with the quarterback play, the wide receiver play, and then their offensive line isn't what we're used to seeing out of the Wisconsin offensive line. They've returned some guys, but the level of play is taking a pretty big step back compared to like the All-Americans they had across the board there. So I guess I'm not stunned by where Wisconsin is at this point. What I am surprised about is the level of desperation that appears to be growing inside that program, where here they are with 2 games left and they're talking about we need to figure out what guys even want to be here and who actually is going to play with pride and what guys can we build this thing around. And I know we've seen that happen here a few times. Yep. And so they're going through it. And so this game, both sides, there's some desperate teams. Nebraska's got a lot to figure out, and so is Wisconsin.
And Wisconsin is not as easy of a coaching job as Barry Alvarez made it out to be. There's academic issues there to get into school. They don't allow JUCO players. They're very tight on high school academics and transfers. Their fan base, it's a good fan base, but it's not what you would call an elite fan base like Nebraska, Michigan, Ohio State. I mean, they go to the games and have a hell of a time. They go to the Packers games on Sunday, but it can fall off quickly there. And their media coverage too is nowhere near like the elite teams in this conference. So the academic piece of it, though, I think Fickle, I've heard, is learning there are challenges, and there's reasons why guys like Gary Anderson were, so quick to want to leave Madison, because you can't just get the players in there that you want, because the admission standards at Wisconsin, they hold themselves to a little bit higher standard and make it harder for the football program.
I think Anderson was a kind of a mutual party. He didn't really fit what they were doing, but it's not easy. It's not an easy place, and they've radically changed the way they're doing things on offense. They kind of pulled a Nebraska, right?
Mm-hmm. They're an air raid now.
Yeah. So they went away from the Alvarez blueprint. Like Nebraska went away from the Osborne blueprint. So let's just see how it goes. I mean, so far, not going too well. They still have a decent, I'd say, pretty good chance to get to a bowl game. Nebraska and Minnesota left. Really good chance to get to a bowl game, but this isn't it's not what I expected from them.
I mean, I would say a decent chance, but by no means a slam dunk. I mean, Minnesota, it's crazy how many 5-5 teams are in the conference right now. I mean, it's just a rugby scrum of 5-5 teams. There's 3 teams out in front, and everybody else is kind of stuck in this scrum other than Indiana and Purdue.
Tough game for Nebraska, though. This is tough. I mean, it's not, I don't know. I don't know what to make of it. You're playing at night in the cold, how the kids.
It's not going to be that cold, though.
Isn't it?
40s.
It'll be 30s by kickoff.
Not too bad. So not.
So, I mean, not like Melvin Gordon's snow game bad, but it'll be cold.
Who will want it more?
Yeah.
That's kind of what it comes down.
And what's the vibe of Camp Randall going to be? Nebraska's been there so many times where it's just a hornet's nest, where the fans are just dialed in. It's a huge party and all that. This one might be a little different because you're starting to see some of that angst creep in within the fan base as well. And oh, by the way, it's the first weekend of deer hunting season, and that's
a big day in Wisconsin.
It's a huge day up there.
Day, yeah.
Like, and if people are going to say, "Well, do I want to watch a 5-5 Wisconsin game, or do I want to go and get in on the first day of deer hunting?" There's going to be some decisions that need to be made.
Sit in a hunting cabin, drinking a strong mixed drink, watching the game at home.
Yeah, especially being cold at night. Watching 2 underachieving football teams like
underachieving.
Nebraska's not underachieving.
You turned the ball over 27 times.
But
that's true.
No, I mean,
that's a good point.
From where we thought their record was going to be, I would say they're
Look
not.
at the games they've lost.
It's a good discussion, though. Like I said, I thought 6-6.
I mean,
So
I get it.
I can't
like from the
say
big picture, but like what this season could have been had they not been their own worst enemy every single week.
Yeah, 27 turnovers.
We just talked about the log jam in the division. It was there for anyone to take.
And nobody's taking it.
Yeah.
Iowa's the one that's kind of taking advantage of
they
the
kind of
crappiness of the Big Ten.
Tripped their way to the finish line.
I mean, they just said, "All right, we're gonna win this limited beauty pageant and just figure out a way to be like the winner of this Big Ten West division by knowing who we are. We're not going to try to do a lot of it on offense." By the way, Spencer Petrus entered the portal I didn't even know he was still on the roster for the Hawkeyes.
Yeah, he's been hurt. Iowa flexed on Saturday, though.
That was a good win.
They put 402 yards on Rutgers. I mean, that's a good Rutgers defense. 402 yards, 22-0. That was not a typical ugly Big Ten West Division win. That was a good win for Iowa.
If they beat Illinois and then they beat Nebraska, can you imagine the emotions with the Ferences?
Yes, I can't imagine it.
Yeah, he's already crying at press conferences. So imagine what happens if they win.
Who's he?
Ferentz.
He's
He's getting emotional in his age. Yeah, they asked him about like the offensive players rallying around him during this trying time, and he like broke down on the podium.
Wow.
Well, if they win in Lincoln, I envision just like this emotional trophy scene.
Yeah, it will be.
You don't want to see it if you're a Nebraska fan.
God, no.
But it will be an emotional,
into
the Ferentz type era trophy scene in Lincoln.
God, I was thinking when I was walking up here to do this, how much I'm looking forward to Nebraska, Iowa. I'm looking forward to that game. I hate to say it, much more than this game. I mean, that's going to be I would think Nebraska, especially if they would lose this game, would just go all out to beat Iowa to get to a bowl.
What if Iowa loses this week to Illinois, and then they have to win to clinch the division?
Oh God, it'll be a
lot at stake there. It'll be a lot at stake.
Selfishly, just get a win, Nebraska, and I say that because I want one more month of football.
Oh God, Sean, thank you.
I don't, and I want to go on a bowl trip.
Thank you.
Selfishly, but I want one more month of football. I do not want the ball to stop on Thanksgiving weekend.
God,
give us one more month,
100
of football to get through.
Please, God.
That's all I ask for. That's my Christmas wish. Figure out a way so we can get one more month of football and go over there.
Mercy.
I want to scramble going to bowl practices, trying to get Christmas shopping done at the same time.
Yeah,
I want that stress that I haven't had in years.
Yeah, I want people calling me saying it's all going to hell back in Lincoln, and I'm in Arizona.
Are they going to say
Vegas?
Yeah,
you got to miss the Christmas party because you got to go to bowl practice.
I feel awful.
Yeah. I can't go to the Christmas parties. Got to go to bowl practice.
Sorry, guys.
All right. Well, we can talk about that more, but we haven't even talked about the quarterbacks. When we come back, we're going to delve into offensive storylines, and we'll hit on the quarterback position and what we think the outlook is for Madison next. You're listening here to the Husker Online Show. And we're back here on the Husker Online Show. Sean Callahan, Steve Sipple, Robin Washut, getting you ready for Saturday night's game in Wisconsin. Huskers Badgers 6:30 on NBC. But before we get to offensive storylines, this segment of the Husker Online Show brought to you by CHI Health. When you need heart care, know you are in good hands with CHI Health Nebraska's Heart in Lincoln, offering the community's most advanced heart care at their hospital on 91st and Pine Lake Road, just north of Highway 2. The experts at CHI Health Heart Nebraska put your heart and soul plus the latest cardiac and technologies into caring for one community. The highly specialized team works closely with you to get you back on your feet after a major heart event or chronic cardiac condition, offering the highest level of care to keep your heart beating strong. Our heart care experts extend past Lincoln, too. We have locations in 14 hospitals and heart experts who travel to 35 communities across Nebraska and southwest Iowa and northern Kansas. There are more than 600,000 people that die of heart disease every year. Learn your heart's real age by taking an online quiz at chihealth.com/heart risk, and do not take that quiz after a Nebraska game.
You could
wait until they win a game. But thanks to CHI Health, guys. Let's get into this quarterback discussion, because it's like there's really no path to the treasure right now. I mean, it's a tough decision. Heinrich Harburg didn't start the week in practice. To me, that's not a good sign that he's limited.
No, it's not.
Chubba Purdy is trying to give it a go, but you wonder if he react. The growing injury that he's had. We've seen this with players; they can play through it and then have to get surgery. What flared up? How's he doing? And Jeff Sims, we know he's healthy, but his issue is the turnovers. But you get the sense, at least my read on Tuesday, was they want it to be Purdy, but they've got to see how he does.
Mm-hmm.
Rob, what do you think?
Yeah, it sounds like just listening to Marcus Satterfield on Tuesday, Harburg is a long shot at this point. Just the fact that he's limited right now, and they're talking about if we want to get him ready if we need him type thing. That doesn't sound good. So that makes it, you think that it's going to be between Sims and Purdy. They split first team reps, I guess, through the first couple of days of practice so far, and they're just going to kind of evaluate it as they go. They said they're getting all three ready to play, because I don't know if you can just pick one guy, because what happens if you start Sims? What if he turns the ball over 2 or 3 times in the first half and you have to go to somebody else? You need Purdy or whoever it is to be ready to go. So it's a situation where all 3 options are flawed, and it's risk involved with each one of those guys under center. I think I agree. I think Purdy would probably be the preferred choice in that scenario, but the fact that he played 11 snaps and was banged up, it just shows he hasn't played in a lot of games. And then with that groin injury, which Matt Rule said after the game is likely going to require offseason surgery. I mean, he's got a lot going on physically.
Yeah. I still don't know what to make of that. We asked Satterfield this week if Chubba Purdy's been practicing all along. He said, yeah, he's been practicing all along. So I don't know how bad that is. We're going to know at game time. It's going to be a game time decision. That's what we're looking at. It's kind of fun. I mean, I kind of like not knowing and seeing who's out there for the first snap.
Fun.
And Chubba, if he's prepared all week to be a starter, how much better will he look? Think about this. He didn't really prepare at all. I mean, it was just kind of like a relief pitching appearance. They made a call to the bullpen and brought in the 9th inning guy. I mean, he came in for the last drive.
So Satterfield said he had only repped 2 of the plays, 2 of the 11 plays. So he led an 11-play, 90-yard march and threw a pick at the end of it, but, led him down the field and had repped what Satterfield said was only 2 of those plays in practice that week. He gets limited reps. He does get reps with the ones. Very limited, though. And now this week he's getting a lot of them with the ones. He had appeared in 3 games this year, pretty much mop-up duty, Chubba. But it's not going to be mop-up duty in Madison. He's going to be playing.
Well, and, we've been critical of Mark Whipple on this show a little bit over the years, but one thing you got to get, Whipple knows quarterbacks. He coached the highest level, coached NFL quarterbacks, and he's been on Chubba. He was on Chubba Purdy for years. That was his guy. Yep. So he's the tools are there. He's got intangibles.
Yep. He's
got the brother now that starts with the San Francisco 49ers, Brock Purdy. And somebody brought up a great point to me on Saturday. Who was the quarterback? Has there ever been a game where the two quarterbacks on the field were younger brothers of starting NFL quarterbacks. I mean, that had to be a first.
Oh my God, good point.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, that was pretty freaky when you think about it. I mean, the Dolphins and
That
the
is pretty
49ers
freaky.
quarterbacks brothers were facing off in Lincoln.
Yeah. Current present day starters and their brothers were, yeah.
The thing about Chubba too is he's really well liked in that locker room too.
Yeah,
Like
he's
he's got
funny.
a personality that I think is a lot of guys are drawn to, and so there's something to be said for that. I think that was a reason why people rallied around Harburg, because he kind of had some of that, but probably not to the level as Purdy. Just kind of reading the tea leaves on that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Purdy is faster than people give him credit for too. I mean, he was a 4.5 runner. He was a dual threat quarterback. He's not a statue pocket guy. Like he was always a guy that could run, and I think you saw his accelerator gears.
Yeah, that's the thing. I'm confused about this whole groin talk because he's been practicing all along, and he didn't look slowed to me. He looked like he had some speed.
Can those flare up though?
Yeah, let's hope it doesn't flare up.
And I mean, if correct me if I'm wrong, when they get, it's like a sports hernia surgery. Is that when these guys get those growing surgeries? It's usually they call that the sports hernia, and we've seen a lot of guys have to get that. And that used to be like a career-ending type surgery for players. I mean, guys never
used to,
but they've kind of changed the surgical way of doing it, where you come back pretty quick off those.
Yeah, I'm not sure about all that, but it doesn't seem like it's a major issue right now with Chubba. Didn't seem like that this week. So we'll see what happens.
Now, Emmett Johnson and Robin had 17 carries on Saturday. That was his career high. He had been more in that 12 to 13 range. Can they push him much higher than 17?
I think they want to try. I mean, just Satterfield said that we need to give him the ball more, and so how much more volume can he handle? I mean, he's still a relatively smaller back, but it didn't seem like it was slowing him down against Maryland. I mean, he was running as hard as anybody on the field in that game, which allowed him to have maybe his best game as a Husker. So that, if you want to try to find a bright spot for Nebraska's offense right now, it's the development of Emmett Johnson. And with all these issues at quarterback, to be able to have a back that you can just turn around and hand the ball off to and get a consistent production out of would be invaluable. So I would expect Emmett Johnson to have probably his heaviest workload of his career if all goes to plan at Wisconsin.
Yeah, and another bright spot's the offensive line, which Rule said played its best game by far all season against Maryland. So, yeah, maybe they can go up to Wisconsin and get some stuff done on the ground. They ran for 184 against Maryland. If they could push that to 200, I'd give them a shot to win the game.
And they got quite a lift on Saturday. I saw this go down. Ethan Piper came on the field during warmups in a wheelchair. I mean, he's recovering from the major surgery he had, and he said some words to those guys. And I think a lot of those players got emotional seeing Pipe down there.
Yep.
And Raiola really gave him a speech. By the way, this is for Raiola. He's a former Wisconsin Badger.
Yeah, he is.
So there's a lot on the line for him. And he's talked about his time at Wisconsin this week to the players, and how a lot of what Wisconsin did was built on what Nebraska used to do, and just his kind of connection with both programs now.
Oh, yeah. I mean, Wisconsin just line up and hammer you. And he'd love nothing else than to go up there to Madison and Nebraska run the ball well. And that be the impetus to them winning a game and getting to a bowl. I mean, that'd be a feather in his cap. Rule seems very happy with Donovan Raiola. It's been sort of an up and down season for those guys, but they've come around. They're like Rule always says, when you're leading the Big Ten in rushing, you're doing something.
He's weathered the storm.
Yeah, it's almost like Rule takes offense when you ask him how the offensive line's doing. Like, we lead the Big Ten in rushing. Why am I being asked this question?
The pass protection.
Yeah.
I mean, if you want to be critical about something, just go back to the Michigan State game. Watch the right side of that offensive line.
Yeah.
So, I mean, they haven't been perfect, but they've been better. I mean, speaking of the right side of the offensive line, remember Bryce Benhart was like the biggest liability in Power 5. Now he's actually
serviceable.
Yeah. I mean, he has been the least of their concerns in a lot of ways.
And Teddy has played well quietly.
Yeah.
You know how you know Teddy's playing well? Because we don't talk about him at all.
Mm-hmm.
He's just played well. It's not like guys are racing by him and we're going, what's wrong with Teddy? See, Teddy's not the same. Teddy played really, really well against Maryland.
And Justin Evans-Jenkins stepping in.
Yeah,
I mean, for a young guy that hadn't played at all, playing at a different position, he's supposed to be a center.
He's a dude.
And now he's a starting left guard. And again, you're not talking about him.
Tough dude.
And one penalty for this football team in 2 games.
0 by the offense.
See that? That's progress.
So, I mean, and trust me, I mean, if they
That's
can get
progress.
if they can get the turnover thing fixed, I mean, I think that's why you get greedy in a rebuild, like, because you see how easy some of these things could be to get to 8 or 9 wins this year.
Yep.
But you have to remember they're in a rebuild right now.
They are.
But there's been promising things like the penalty stats the last couple of games, the O-line development, the running back development, the defensive scheme, Albano's rise late. I mean, there's been a lot of things you can say, okay, I like this. I like that.
It's a tricky conversation, that rebuild, though, because they got a lot of the same players. I mean, it's the same players as last year on defense.
They weren't good last year.
No, but it's not a rebuilt team. You know, it's not a bunch of new faces on defense, not even new faces up front on offense. I mean,
But Nash Hutmacher wasn't contributing like that last year.
Right. But they're all the same guys.
Didn't play at that level last year.
No.
I mean,
it's the development of those guys.
Javen Wright wasn't on the field last year. John Bullock wasn't on the field last year. I mean, there were a lot of guys that are playing now that really weren't even a factor a year ago. Bayer, not on the field last year.
Just go across the board on that defense. It's Tony White, baby. It's the reason why he's a Royals nominee.
White's name is going to get mentioned for some of these things.
Mm-hmm.
This is how it goes.
Yeah, Feldman and Thamel are saying that San Diego State will hire offensive side guy. They've gone twice in a row with defensive side, and they might go offensive side this time. That's what the Feldman's saying and Thamel's saying.
All right, when we come back, we'll switch over to defensive talk. You're listening here to the Husker Online Show. And we're back here on the Husker Online Show. Sean Callahan, Steve Sipple, Robin Washut, talking defensive storylines heading out to Wisconsin. But before we get to that, the segment of the show brought to you by Bauer Underground. They're helping shape Nebraska's infrastructure future, and they're looking for new members to join their team with open positions for laborers, equipment operators, aerial linemen, foremen. Bauer Underground is searching for the best in construction. Visit BauerUnderground.com to learn more about career opportunities and industry-leading benefits, including competitive pay, employer-paid health insurance, dental, disability, vision, life insurance, 401k match, new top-of-the-line equipment, and a clothing allowance. No experience, no problem. They'll train the right people, giving you the hands-on experience you need to build a long and rewarding career. Learn more by visiting Bauer Underground on Facebook to view their testimonials by current Bauer teammates, hear about their experiences, including the company culture and the importance of their work. Bauer Underground is family-owned with work sites across Nebraska, so there's opportunities wherever you live. For more information, like Bauer Underground on Facebook or visit BauerUnderground.com. Come start your new career today. Thank you to Bauer Underground. All right, let's get into the defensive storyline talk here, guys. Heading out to Madison because we saw this unit force turnovers last week, and they were big. I mean, you go back to Omar Brown, Javen Wright, and some of these plays that these guys made.
Oh God,
we've been waiting years for Nebraska's defenses to do this, and they did it, and it was almost enough to get the win.
Oh my God, they made some amazing plays. I mean, Omar Brown just wrestling the ball away himself and recovering it. Javen Wright somehow getting that ball loose down in the extreme red zone for Maryland, and having that beautiful pick where he got his foot down somehow. Huge plays. Got him 10 points. I mean, basically got Nebraska their 10 points.
Yeah, I mean, you could say it was probably the best games of both of those players' careers, just with not just the turnovers they made, but the overall impact. They were everywhere. You look at the Pro Football Focus grade outs on both of those guys, it was some of the highest they've had as Huskers. So that's, another example of the development and evolution of this defense, where you're getting these young players that, Omar Brown wasn't much of a factor last year. Neither was Wright. And now all of a sudden they are critical pieces in the back end of that defense that are now making game-changing types of plays for a defense that has been really good, but that's been the one hurdle that really hasn't surmounted yet, was making those turnovers.
Yeah, they haven't done a lot of that.
They've been great at reacting to takeaways from the other side, but now they're forcing the issue a little bit more by taking the ball away themselves.
Yeah, that was huge.
You're listening here to the Husker Online Show as we talk defensive storylines heading out to Wisconsin. Ty Robinson,
he's a monster.
You talk about all Big Ten level guys. I mean, Gifford, Robinson, Omar Brown, Nash Hutmacher. I mean, those guys have been consistent. I was joking with media relations director Keith Mann. I mean, Javen Wright's a guy that, he's a great spokesman, great person for the program. He goes, he's a guy, I wouldn't be surprised if we saw him at Big Ten Media Days representing this team. He is a really bright spot that's emerged from this season.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that makes sense. He's a junior. So he could be a guy next year that does it.
I mean, he looks the part too.
Yeah, and Robinson played incredibly well against Maryland, and Tony White said you'd seen glimpses of it. With Robinson, you always want to see more consistency. But when his engine fires, man, I mean,
He was unblockable.
Yeah, he can be a monster. Yeah, he was ripping through double teams like Tony White said, like nothing. That was him at his best.
He made some money last week.
Yeah, I think so. You want to see him follow it up. I mean, like White said, this isn't Sipple talk. This is Tony White. You've just seen glimpses of it. You want to see consistency. But yeah, he looked like an NFL player against Maryland.
And
White,
this is a limited Wisconsin offense. I mean, I can see some of these guys having a big game. Sorry, Rob.
Yeah, just continuing with that. White also said that maybe the best thing about Saturday was that everybody else saw what Robinson could do, but more importantly, Robinson saw it.
Yeah.
Like that was a game where you proved to yourself that you can be a dominant, game-changing force, and you finally lived up to it. And now he knows that he's capable of that. That eclipsing that ceiling could be a huge deal for him in his future.
Oh God.
How does Wisconsin move it on Nebraska? I mean, like if Mordecai's still coming off that hand injury, Braylon Allen only had 3 carries last week of his ankle injury. I mean, this is a good matchup for this defense.
Oh, it is. What you don't want to see is Braylon Allen round into form. I mean, you don't want to see
that. Would be Nebraska's luck.
God, yeah, it would.
He'd have a Melvin Gordon 2014 type game on Nebraska.
Yeah, and I don't want to see that for these veteran players like Ty Robinson and Reimer, and I mean, there's so many veterans on that defense. Omar Brown's a senior. I want to see those guys go out in a bowl game. Those guys, see, there's a part of me that I think they've responded really well to this turnover issue, but man, I feel bad for certain guys like Reimer, who's played so well over the course of his career, and the defense has done what it needs to do to get Nebraska to a bowl game. It really has.
Oh yeah, no question.
We always hear football is the ultimate team game, and that's beautiful. It can also be very frustrating. I mean, the defense has played well enough, but the turnover issue has dragged them back. And you know what? I wouldn't even mention it we're talking about these guys, these veteran players, even Javin Wright's a junior. I mean, these guys have been around. They want to go to a bowl game badly in the worst way. And some of these guys, it'll be their last chance.
Yeah. They have 3 one-score losses and have turned the ball over 27 times. I mean, think about that.
Yeah, that's
think about what could have been if Nebraska could just
don't do that.
Stop ruining its own chances.
Well,
it's horrifying.
They could be 8-2 right now.
I mean, that's well within the realm of possibility.
7-3. Yep, 7-3 for sure.
And we're talking about going to Tampa or somewhere. I mean, a pretty decent bowl. I mean, if they get to 6-6, they will be an attractive team in that mash of 6-6 teams.
No doubt.
But they got to get there, and they're gonna, Iowa will
it's gonna be so hard.
Iowa's gonna probably be 2-3 point favorite in Lincoln is my guess, depending on how Nebraska plays.
What's the over under on that one going to be?
26.
Ooh, low.
28.
I was gonna say lower than 26.
Well, it's never in the history of the game. It's never been lower than that.
Oh, it hasn't.
I mean, Iowa keeps setting that bar
like
lower
26
and
a half. I think is maybe the lowest. I don't know where I was. Has it been lower than that?
Anyway,
that's close.
It's gonna be hard.
Nothing.
Nebraska getting that last win is just gonna be. It's gonna be ridiculously hard.
They're gonna have to do something they haven't done nearly enough of over the years and beat either or Wisconsin, Iowa.
And you got to limit turnovers.
Well, we said back in the preseason, Michigan State and Maryland were going to be big games to get to a bowl, and that's how it played out. Those were huge swing games.
It's huge, 100, just gigantic.
When you weren't banking on Colorado ruling the college football world for like 2 weeks and Nebraska having to play out there during the middle of that rain.
One of the craziest environments ever. Yeah. So no, and you're right about Michigan State, Maryland, especially Maryland, in my opinion. That was a game you should have just closed out. I mean, come on.
All right, when we come back, we will take the discussion to the mailbag. Abby Barmore will join the show. You're listening here to the Husker Online Show. And we're back here on the Husker Online Show. Sean Callahan, Steve Sipple, Robin Washett, as we get into the mailbag. But before we get to that, this segment of the show brought to you by Caldera Lab. We've been telling you about it all year. We've almost gotten Steve Sipple to do a live Caldera Lab demonstration.
Do we have an HR department?
But we have not been successful. But I've been using Caldera Lab all fall. It's a great men's skincare product. Helps your face look clean, fresh. You look younger. And it's super easy to use. Three easy steps. It takes about 30 seconds to do in the morning, 30 seconds when you go to bed at night, and boom. And 94% of men have been seeing positive results or shown results using Caldera Lab for just a few weeks. So it doesn't take that long to do. And we've got a great deal for our HuskerOnline users. Visit calderalab.com and use promo code Husker, and you'll get 20% off right now on your order. Once again, that's calderalab.com, promo code Husker to receive 20% off your order here of Caldera Lab. Thanks again to Caldera Lab for sponsoring us here on the Husker Online Show. All right, Abby, where are we going?
Okay, first one. It feels like Nebraska is a decent quarterback away from a good football team. So besides quarterback, what is the top position of need for Nebraska to address in the portal?
I still think, I think they need a dog, an elite number one receiver, like somebody that can run a route, create separation, and get open. I don't know if they have too many guys that consistently run the routes at the highest level they need to be run at and get open and create that separation. You saw what Trey Palmer did a year ago and how big that was. If they could get any semblance of a guy like that, that'd be huge.
Probably say interior defensive line, depending on what Ty Robinson does, and maybe Nash Hutmaker. If one or both of those guys moves on, that's going to be significant void that I don't know if the players on the roster right now would be enough. They might need to supplement that.
Yeah, and an offensive lineman.
Tackle.
Yeah, tackle. Yeah.
Well,
yeah, Teddy's played well, but you can use another one, especially if Benhart's gone.
Well, Benhart and Corcoran potentially could both be gone. Like, it's their decision what they want to do.
It's tough, isn't it? You just don't know.
Yeah, and they're making good money, but a lot of it will decide.
It's so strange to hear that.
Like, a lot of it will be based on like, what's the program want to do with those positions?
Right.
Do they want to bring someone else in or keep it? Rule does strike me as a guy that doesn't really believe you can build a team through the portal on the O-line. It's hard.
Good point.
They thought they had a guy in Rouse,
point.
but think about the year before. I mean, the two guys they brought in were Hunter Anthony and Kevin Williams. And it just was, it didn't work out.
Good point.
It's hard to find. And the good ones like that go to Michigan, like Olawatimi or whatever, the guy that won the
real good ones.
I mean, the real good ones go to places like that. And can Nebraska get one of those kinds of guys? It's going to be hard.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, good point. That's a really good point. Now, just move
Next
on.
question.
What do you attribute the improvement of the pass rush? Is it the coaching or the personnel?
Scheme.
Both.
I think the scheme and the number of pressures they've gotten is on par to be as good of a season as they've had in 10 years, over 10 years. And they're also missing the fewest number of tackles we've seen as a defense.
God, yes. We don't talk about that enough.
Mm-hmm.
We don't.
Yeah.
They have some dudes. I think it's both. I mean, I hate to do that, but they have a lot of pass rushers. I mean, it's not just one or two. They have a lot of guys that can get to the quarterback.
They got guys that are making the plays. I mean, winning one-on-one matchups when they have them. Where even to the true freshmen coming in there, like they're beating their blocks and they're getting into the backfield, and then they're getting to the quarterback. They've had guys that can do one or two of those steps, but they never finish the play. And so that I think is the separator to where they're defending so well on the back end. That's a big part of it. They're allowing the pass rush more time to get home. And then you have athletes that are dynamic enough to win their matchups and capitalize on those opportunities.
One other thing. You only talk about tackling when they're missing it, when they're missing tackles.
It's
they
been
never
as significant of an upgrade as anything on this team.
Yeah.
I
should say they never miss tackles. We've seen some missed tackles, but not many of them
compared to last year,
because they really rallied to the ball. They really rallied hard.
I mean, they had a couple key ones. I mean, in coverage last week, but that's every game for every team.
Yeah,
they're limiting those. I mean, they're like 7 or 8 a game versus like 13 a game.
Right.
14. That's a big difference.
Oh yeah,
that's 6 or 7 more first downs.
I mean, we have walked out of that press box many times in recent years going, God, they can't tackle. I mean, how many missed tackles was that?
Think about Georgia Southern.
Mm-hmm. We never do that now. We never do that.
And that's how they practice too. I think
they hit. I mean, there's a lot of hitting.
They sharpen their blade on Tuesday, Wednesdays to be ready for Saturdays.
That's right.
Next question.
If Nebraska is even positive in the turnover margin in the next 2 weeks, how much is that going to impact their likelihood of winning?
It's huge. We just talked about the one score of losses they have and the amount of turnovers they've had in those games. if you find a way to not be your own worst enemy for 1 week, your odds of winning go up dramatically.
They could be Iowa basically without Tory Taylor.
Yeah. Yeah.
Tory Taylor's their All-American.
Who just
Level
announced he's
punter.
not coming back next year. He has another year of eligibility. He's going to go to the draft.
He should, because he's the best punter in the world.
Yes, he
He has a lot of practice.
Yeah. He's the best punter in the world.
All right, what do you got next,
Okay,
Abby?
on a scale of 1 to 10, how confident are you that Nebraska will become bowl eligible this year?
It's a scary conversation.
I mean,
less
it's like a five.
less
It's like a
confident than
five.
I was last week,
Yeah.
or-
Oh, yeah.
and much less than I was 2 weeks ago.
I really think, though, they're walking into an interesting situation in Madison, like one that they can take advantage of. And that fan base there, I'm sensing that it's going to be a fan base that's not really too engaged in these final 2 weeks.
And is Wisconsin engaged? This is a lot of it. Hey, a lot of it just comes down to, as we said earlier, who wants it more.
Mhm.
And can Nebraska's quarterback situation orchestrate? Can they figure something out that orchestrates a win?
Yeah.
That I don't know. I don't know what Chubba's got. I haven't seen Chubba.
I've seen it for
enough.
11 plays.
Yeah.
If I'm Matt Rule,
Yeah.
I'm saying to my team, like, hey, we can set them back. Let's advance our program here tonight, and let's set them back, and let's let PJ Fleck in Minnesota beat them the next week, and they don't go to a bowl game.
Yeah, that'd be good.
I mean, they've got to say, like, hey, we're building something here. We believe in what we're doing. They're questioning what they're doing here right now. We're not questioning
No,
what we're doing.
it seems like Nebraska's locker room has stayed strong. I think.
Yeah, there's nobody like after games saying we're going to find out who's with us or who's not. You know, like, I mean, because, well, first of all, we've covered a lot of those things.
We have.
We're going to find out right away who is here and who's not, who wants to be here and who
Sean,
doesn't.
Sean is a hardened cynic at this point. After
But we've
we've
heard it.
seen a lot of that.
I read all that stuff at the Wisconsin Northwestern loss. I'm like, oh my God,
Flashbacks.
Robin and I have
Yep.
written that a lot, and you have in your previous career.
Life, yes.
Previous life.
All right, Abby, one more question. What do you got?
Is this our last one?
Yes.
Okay. I didn't know. It's important. Okay. So, what are the top restaurants for fans to visit when they're traveling to Madison?
Well, first of all, the HuskerOnline Friday night road trip steak tour will conclude its final stop of the tour at the Tornado Room in Madison.
It's a highlight.
The steak tour.
It's a traditional Wisconsin supper club across the street from the Capitol building, and it's phenomenal. I mean, and you feel like you're in a 1960s mafia movie.
Ooh,
It's
I like
it's
the
a time
sound of
warp
that.
where it's really like dimly lit. It's got like the old lighting fixtures, low ceilings. Just it feels like you're walking in like just the set of Mad Men or something like that when you go in there.
You can't make a like open table online reservation. You have to call in, and they handwrite them in a ledger.
Good God.
Your kind of place,
Yeah.
Steve
Yeah,
Sipple.
sounds like heaven to me right now. And maybe that's what heaven is. Like maybe that's what it's
Handwritten ledgers.
Just an old school steakhouse.
Yeah, old school steakhouse. Hey,
Uh,
Rob, could Rob wear his sweatshirt like that?
Yeah, I mean,
I
Could you-
wouldn't.
You wouldn't.
I mean, I probably could.
wear a polo shirt.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not like
So bring a
suit.
decent shirt.
Yeah, just bring a.
I only slum it for the Husker Online show. It's not
What
a
did we
steakhouse.
wear to that place in East Lansing? Were we dressed okay?
Yeah.
Sean
Yeah.
was. I know that.
He always is.
Well, I have TV before we eat, so like I'm on Channel 7. We get all that done, then go do all that. But a couple other spots
Okay.
because the old fashioned is like a traditional, like everything Wisconsin place in Madison. That's outstanding.
Cheese curds. If you want cheese curds, go to the old fashioned.
Oh,
Best curds in the city, they say.
Yeah.
Really?
Don't waste your time getting an old fashioned at the old fashioned. It's not that good. Just get a good Wisconsin beer. They have a whole bunch of taps, just brats, burgers, good food like that. But then the cheese curds are elite.
Hey, what did they say about old fashions in Wisconsin? You're supposed to get brandy, right?
Yeah. That's,
Brandy.
again, why
Is that right, Sean?
I don't waste my time with it.
I think
No, you're right.
if
That's
you're in
exactly what they do.
yeah. If you're
I'm
in
a rye
Wisconsin,
whiskey.
If you
old-fashioned.
don't specify
yeah.
what you want, they will make it with brandy.
And if they ask you, say brandy.
Is that from Parker
Well,
Gabriel?
If you want
it's from
Bush.
I
Bush,
don't want
Bill.
brandy.
Because Bill Bush worked out there.
Yeah, he did.
Okay, and then Bassett Street Brunch Club, great breakfast spot.
Yes.
But Friday night, the go if you're a Husker fan going out there and you want to just kind of go to a safe Switzerland place to go where you know it's going to be a lot of Nebraska fans,
Switzerland.
go to go to State Street Brats.
Okay.
We have been there every year since 2011, and that's generally kind of the meeting hub where you're going to see us all there. And it kind of became a media party last time we were there. I mean, like the World Herald guys were there, the Journal Star guys, the TV guys, the radio guys. But State Street Brats, great spot to go. And they have food there too. I mean, it's just bar food, but good spot. What do you think, Rob?
Yeah. And with State Street, it's like kind of the sports bar-y first level. And then for you younger folks, there's a nightclub upstairs that you can walk up there.
So we might have to watch out for
get all that.
Sipple to hit up the
No,
nightclub.
Yeah,
no,
so-
you won't have to watch out for that at all.
The
In fact,
nightclub.
the whole thing I may not be doing, but I'll definitely do the tornado room.
And there's Dottie's, the hamburger place. It's, I don't know, people love it. I
He was
thought
featured in
just
Sports
okay.
Illustrated.
Yeah.
once.
I mean, again, people love it. I was like, okay, this is fine.
What's the Ruth Chris is one that is popular. There is a Ruth Chris.
What's a
in Madison.
chain?
Yeah.
There's an
That's a
Applebee's
Barry
there,
Alvarez.
too. I think there's a Chili's down the street.
There's a Buffalo Wild Wings.
What's that place you take Kit in Lincoln
This place called
that
Outback.
your daughters like?
Texas Roadhouse.
Texas Roadhouse. One time I ate one in Madison. I ate at one in Madison, and I was telling Bo Pelini that, and he goes, "Was McDonald's closed?"
Now there is a
I was really proud. I was like, I was like, "Hey, I'm eating at a Texas Roadhouse."
our great friends
excited. He
and
goes,
sponsors of the show, Tanners.
Yep.
They own the Tanners in Middleton, which is in a suburb of Madison. So if you want to go to a bar during the day and watch college football, go to the brand new Tanners location. It's a different one than before. And the ownership here that owns the Lincoln Tanners also owns the Madison one.
Wow.
So there you go. All right. When we come back, we're going to close up. We'll talk Jim Harbaugh, Big Ten next. You're listening here to the Husker Online Show. Final segment here of the Husker Online Show. Sean Callahan, Steve Sipple, Robin Washett. Before we get into some Big Ten discussion, Steve Sipple, this segment brought to you by
Sean, Larson Motors. If you're looking for a new vehicle, go for a new experience at Larson Motors in Nebraska City. Larson Motors is one of the Midwest's only dealerships with all the major brands in one spot. Finding your Chevrolet, GMC, Hummer, Ford, Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, or Ram has never been easier. Start your new experience today at LarsonMotorGroup.com or at Larson Motors in Nebraska City. Larson Motors, real people, real deals.
All right, let's get into the Big Ten action from last week. Illinois keeps their bowl eligibility hopes alive. Illini 5-5 now. Just have to get a win against either Iowa or Northwestern to get to a bowl game. So Brett Bielema kind of
What a win.
salvaged things at Indiana. Obviously, Maryland beats Nebraska 13-10. They're now bowl eligible. Michigan beats Penn State without Jim Harbaugh. Penn State fired their offensive coordinator as well. 24-15 was that score. Purdue, and this is kind of a stunning score, 49-30.
Stunning.
Over Minnesota. The Gophers now must beat. They have to win one of their final two games to get to a bowl game, and they play Ohio State this week, and then they close with Wisconsin. So PJ Fleck to get to a bowl game has to get an upset in there probably. If you consider them beating Wisconsin an upset. Northwestern stuns Wisconsin 24-10. They're now 5-5. And they're favorites this week. So Northwestern is probably going to get a bowl game. Pretty good chance of it. And David Braun could be voted Big Ten Coach of the Year potentially.
Yep.
Iowa 22-0 over Rutgers. Then Ohio State 38-3 over Michigan State and Columbus. That was the night game. But let's focus the conversation on America's team, Steve Sipple.
Yeah, let's do that.
The Michigan Wolverines. Jim Harbaugh watched. Did anyone ask him where he watched the game from?
I don't think anybody's asked that. They're a monster right now, and they're going to be galvanized by this. They ran the ball against Penn State 32 straight times. They just said hell with it.
They didn't have.
You think we need subterfuge? Here's some subterfuge for you. We're going to ram it down your throat. I mean, that's all we're going to do.
Think we're cheating?
Yeah, I think we're cheating. Here's cheating. 32 straight runs. I mean, against Penn State, which is a good run defense. Big flex by Michigan. That's what they're going to keep doing.
And again, they've had the
Until they get to Georgia, then they'll lose.
They've had the schedule to build up to this point. That was their first ranked opponent they've played all year.
Really
so they've developed a team, they've managed reps, and they finally said, all right, Blake Corum, we're taking off the handcuffs. You're going to get the ball a ton, and we're just going to ram it down you.
He got 145.
That was by far his best game of the year.
Yeah.
against the best team they've played.
They were impressive. They were beyond impressive. So I don't know. Jim seems like he's weirding out a little bit. Talked about how he can't get viruses.
Didn't he say I'm the wall that viruses smash against?
Yeah, that shatter against my wall. They said, "How do you do it?" He goes, "I don't know. You do push-ups, eat an apple."
He's nuts.
Do push-ups, eat an apple.
It's going to be. I mean, if they win the Big Ten, which they have the highest odds to win the national championship right now.
Jeez, I still like Georgia Shore.
If they win the Big Ten, can you imagine that trophy ceremony with Tony Petitti and Jim Harbaugh?
Harbaugh will be fine. He's acting. It's a very interesting dynamic. What's going on in this situation? Harbaugh is at the Michigan hockey game on Saturday night. They get back. The team gets back. They go watch Michigan hockey, and the whole crowd at the hockey game's chanting "Free Jim Harbaugh."
Yeah, it's like they're being like persecuted for something they didn't do. They cheated. There's blatant evidence that they cheated, and people are like acting like they're the good guys in this scenario.
It's gotten odd.
It is weird. It's just
gotten
America
odd.
in a nutshell. I don't know.
Yeah, it's gotten. It is weird. I don't know.
Yeah, it's the America we live in now, where you pick a side, even if you think it's right or wrong. And you know, our world has changed since 2016.
But there's confusing elements to this. Like we talk about, they're cheating. Well, Bill Self cheated. He cheated his ass off, and he just got $10 million per year.
Yep.
Okay. So there's confusing.
I know.
I can see why fans would be confused. Self is a proven cheater, and he just signed a mega contract with Kansas.
I mean, they got caught on like federal wires.
Exactly. The
really
feds were involved.
It was Operation Varsity Blues was what it was called.
Right, I
I
mean,
mean, gives you more incentive. Like, if you're Nebraska, why don't you just go on and just cheat your butt off and
Sorry
just
about that. Sorry.
go in there
Yeah.
and just, what are they going to do? Slap you on the wrist, suspend your head coach for a couple games? Like, who cares? Go win a championship, cheat,
All right.
break all the rules.
Real quick, this week's games, not a great slate. Big noon game is Michigan at Maryland on Fox, then Michigan State and Indiana, Purdue at Northwestern. That's big only in the sense because Northwestern has a chance to get bowl eligible. Penn State hosting Rutgers, Illinois and Iowa, Minnesota at Ohio State. The Buckeyes a 27.5-point favorite. Then the Badgers right now 4.5 over Nebraska in the night game, and that spread, Robin, has teetered from 6 to 4.5.
Yeah, it's gone down, and I think a lot of it's just probably the strife going on in Madison right now.
Stat from the Penn State side. As you mentioned, James Franklin fired Mike Yurcich. Now they could finish 10-2, so it's sort of an odd firing, except if you look at what Penn State did against Michigan and Ohio State, 2 losses. In those 2 losses, the Penn State offense was 5 for 30 on third down. 5 for 30 on third down. That could get you fired at Penn State.
Well, they chase points too. I mean, they had a chance to make it 14-10 in the second quarter, and they went for 2.
Yeah.
They didn't get it. It's 14-9.
Franklin getting hammered.
And Franklin just got smoked by that reporter in the post-game press
Yes,
conference.
he did. He didn't really have an answer, did he?
And that guy didn't back down.
Didn't give ground. No.
And then did they go for 2 at the end of the game when they could have kicked an extra point to make it an 8-point game?
I think, yes, that's what they did.
But if they would have just taken the 2 extra points, it would have been a 24-17 game.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, odd.
So a lot there.
Chasing points.
We'll be live from Madison. Ideally, we're hoping for a midnight start time for our post-game live show. So join us from Madison. We got a great special this week for the big Freedom Trophy game. Get 50% off Husker Online right now. That special runs through the week. So go to HuskerOnline.com. If you're a new member, you can get 1 year of Steve Sipple's columns, all of our great content, Robin's basketball content, Abby's volleyball content, all of our great content for 50% off for a year. That's at HuskerOnline.com through the week. Thank you again for joining us here. For Steve Sipple, Robin Washett, I'm Sean Callahan.